All right, welcome back again. We are doing Security Plus questions today. This is, I believe, the first episode for Security Plus. We've already done Network Plus, and I'm hoping to make this a weekly thing. We'll try it out 4 or 5 weeks, and if people seem like they enjoy it, then we'll keep doing it. And if it doesn't, then well, we won't, right? So I have a lot of students going for Security Plus. I know that surprises you because I teach a lot of Security Plus. I find that the students try to go through the questions, and sometimes they're guessing through it. And so the goal of these practice exams is to not just randomly answer questions, right? We're not there to randomly answer questions. We're there to find out why the answer is the answer, or to give you some test taking techniques as we go through them and explain why the answer is the answer. That is the goal of the practice sessions that we are putting together. And I thought I would do this because I felt like it was needed, right? It was needed. I find a lot of instructors, they go through and they're like, here's this exam, and either you got it right or you got it wrong, but they don't really explain why you got it right or why you got it wrong. And I feel like that's not a proficient or efficient way of certification practice tests, right? So we're going to do it a little bit different. Let's jump right into it, though. I've got 5 questions for today. We'll see how long it takes, and we'll go from there. 5 questions. Let's start with practice question number 1. Which of the following is a common hashing algorithm? We rated this one as easy. I'll give you about 20 or 30 seconds. While you're figuring it out as you're reading through the answers, I want to remind you that don't look these up. Don't look them up, right? Go with your gut feeling. Go with your interior motivation, right? Our goal is not to just willy-nilly answer these questions. If you don't know the answer, take a guess. Don't Google it. We're going to explain it anyway, so there's no reason to Google it. I want you to get a good sense of how you're doing on these, because if you find content that maybe you're lacking on, maybe you're finding a question that you can't answer, then we can go through, and now you have knowledge of, hey, I need to study upon this, and that's where we're going to go with this. All right, let's answer this one. Which of the following is a common hashing algorithm? Well, it's not ECC, elliptical curve cryptography. That is considered to be an asymmetric encryption. We were obviously talking about a public-private key pair. That is ECC. That's ECC. So obviously not a hashing algorithm, because remember, hashing algorithm is a one-way algorithm. I don't even call it encryption. Some people call it a one-way hashing encryption. I do not. I don't think it's encryption. In my mind, encryption means that you have to be able to decrypt something, and you can't decrypt a hash. It's impossible. So that's the entire reason we call it a hash. All right, so it's not ECC. If you took a time and you guessed ECC, hopefully you guessed a different answer. Let's move on and eliminate one more. Not RSA. RSA is Revest Shaw something something. It is another public-private key pair. It is another asynchronous encryption algorithm. So that leaves us with SHA-256 and AES. And I want to point out that you should know the acronyms, right? I know that you're like, wait a minute, you're a hypocrite. You just said know the acronyms, and you said RSA, and you know it's Revest something something, but you don't even know the acronym. Well, that's because I know it's Revest. I know it's an encryption algorithm. Yeah, I know. I'm a hypocrite sometimes. Get over it. It's okay. I freely admit that I'm a hypocrite sometimes, okay? But in this case, RSA is an asynchronous. So that leaves SHA and AES. Well, if you guess SHA, well, you're correct. That is going to be the correct answer. SHA, MD5, those are both hashing algorithms. In this case, we have SHA-1, 2, and 3. SHA-256 is normally considered to be a SHA-2 algorithm. SHA-2 algorithm for 256. It's a one-way encryption. We also have MD5, or Message Digest 5. That one's out of touch. It's no longer considered to be collision-free. It's no longer good or useful. And then we have AES. Now, AES is an advanced encryption standard. That is a symmetric encryption standard. But for hashing algorithm, there's only one, and it is that SHA right there. And there you go. It was kind of an easy one, right? I feel like this is one where you either know it or you know. Now, students often ask me, like, okay, well, there's so many synchronous encryptions. How can I study all those? Well, you don't need to. One of the tricks I used way back in the day, which I'm sure is useful, is I memorized the encryptions and the acronyms for the encryptions for asynchronous, because there's not that many of them. And then I memorized the ones for message or for SHA or for algorithm. I can't talk. Hashing. And there's only like 5 or 6 of those. And so if it's talking about cryptography and it's not a hashing algorithm and it's not an asynchronous algorithm, then it must then be a synchronous algorithm. But believe it or not, it's better just to memorize them all. There's only like 8 or 9 of the synchronous ones that you need to memorize, and there's only like 5 or 6 of the message of the hashing. I keep on trying to call it message digest because for the longest time that's what we called it. It was just message digest. All right, moving on to our next question. Let's go to our next question. Actually, let's take a minute here, right? I find this to be where students don't really understand hashing. Let's do something on Kali. I love Kali. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right, I've got my Kali box. Let's open up that Kali box. I feel like people ask me, they're like, wait a minute, why are you using Kali as your background if you're not going to use it? And let's use it. All right, so here I have a command line terminal, or a terminal, I should say, within this. And let's just do a hash, right? Now, there's several ways we could do a hash, but I feel like the best way to do it is with an echo command, To do this command, we're just going to type in echo, and then we're going to do a -n. And you can see I've already done a little bit of this before. Let's just use this one. Let's just use this one. I did this in a lab before, I think, on my YouTube page. So if I do that, then I provided with a SHA-256 hash right there. And it provides that. And then let's do it again, but let's change one number. Let's just delete the @ sign. That's all we're going to do. We're not going to do anything else. And you can notice by doing this that the entire hash has changed. This digital signature within this context has changed. That's what hashing is all about. It is a one-way algorithm that allows us to provide it. Now, this is great for integrity of your CIA triad within cybersecurity, and that's why we use it. So there you go. That's our example of hashing. I hope that makes sense. Now let's move on. Now let's move on to our next question. If I can get my computer to work properly. There we go. All right. Moving on. Next question. What is the primary purpose of a firewall? What is the primary purpose of a firewall? I feel like this one's a very easy question as well. But what is the primary purpose of a firewall? I feel like while you're doing that, I'm going to have to do something. All right, hold on.
Welcome to the firewall. His favorite food, chimichangas.
Chimichangas?
Access denied.
Oh.
Huh. This might take a while.
Oh boy. Fireball.
Pop it out.
All right, one of my favorite scenes for a firewall. But let's answer this question. What is the primary purpose of a firewall? We consider this one to be very easy. Well, it's not to encrypt data. Definitely not encrypting data with a firewall. So if you guessed that one, that is incorrect. Let's drop down to D. Provide VPN services. No, that would usually be a VPN concentrator. Would usually provide us with VPN services. That means it's got to either be B, monitor network performance, or C, block unauthorized access. If you got any hint from that movie clip, then you know it's got to be C. It's got to be a block unauthorized access is going to be our correct answer. If you got that one, go ahead and give yourself a crisp high five and a slap on the back. Good job. It's going to be C. All right, question number 3. Which protocol is used to secure HTTP traffic? This one is going to be easy, I feel like. I feel like this one is going to be easy. I'll give you a second. And I feel like this one answers itself if you know the acronym. That goes into that 40% rule that I often talk about. If you're not familiar with the 40% rule, it's basically that I firmly believe that if you know the acronyms, 40% of the exam is pretty much answered for you, because the answer is pretty much in the acronym name. But if you don't know it, it could get a little bit dicey. Let's get a little bit dicey. So what do you think? All right, well, let's hopefully you got those answers, and if not, you pause the video. Let's get rid of D, Simple Network Management Protocol, SNMP. That is not going to be correct. It is not SMMP. We know that. I feel like you guys knew that one. It's not FTP, File Transfer Protocol. Obviously, that's not going to secure it. I feel it really comes down to SSH and TLS. That's B or C are going to be the big answers right there. Well, SSH is secure shell, and C is transport layer security. If you think about it, HTTPS operates using TLS, transport layer security. It's layered on top of the protocol. That's where we get our answer. So the correct answer on this one is definitely going to be C. C is our right answer. All right, question number 4. What type of attack involves sending unsolicited messages to Bluetooth-enabled devices? Unsolicited messages to Bluetooth-enabled devices. I'll give you a second to answer that one. I'm gonna give you a second. I feel like I need to get like some music in the background, you know, the type of music that I probably can't say on here, like Jeopardy music or something like that, just so our wait time is in there when we go through. But let's go ahead and answer this on what type of attack involves sending unsolicited messages to Bluetooth-enabled devices. I feel like we know it's not phishing. We know it's not phishing. Phishing is sending an email to a mass amount of people. There's no rhyme or reason. Well, there is a rhyme or reason, but there's no directed contact for it. That would be phishing over email. Spoofing would be to take the appearance of another device or something like that. For instance, I could spoof the DNS. I could spoof an IP address. I could spoof an email. These are pretending to be different things that you really aren't. I feel like it was pretty obvious that it's either blue snarfing or blue jacking. So which one is it? Is it blue snarfing or is it blue jacking? Well, blue snarfing is actually trying to take control. It's unauthorized access to a device. Blue snarfing is where we go through and we actually try to grab something out of it. We're looking for contacts, messages, all kinds of really good stuff. Usually blue snarfing is unauthorized access. Blue jacking is sending unsolicited messages. Matter of fact, the entire definition of blue jacking is to send messages. So how do I remember this? Well, this is difficult to remember because there's really nothing in there to exactly point out. When I think blue jacking, I think a blue jacket. I'm putting it on top of there, and that makes me think high school prankster. And that's what blue jacking is. It's more used for pranks than it is anything else. So I just mentally think of blue jacking, somebody put a jacket on themselves. Usually see, in my mind, I see somebody that's in high school, usually the jocks, they always wanted to pick on everybody else. That would be blue jacking. And that means that blue snarfing, if you ever watched the Smurfs, you remember Snarf, right? Maybe I'm thinking the wrong one, but I'm pretty sure it was Snarf. Maybe it's not. I'm gonna have to look that up real quick. I'm gonna have to. What is Snarf? Cartoon. I knew it was a cat. Cartoon cat Snarf. Was it He-Man or She-Ra? 1980s Thundercats. It was the Thundercats. I was completely wrong. Thundercats. But anyway, what can I say? I'm an 80s child. I'm an 80s child, right? So I always think when somebody says Snarf, that's who I think of. A Lion-O and the Thundercats. I don't know why I didn't associate that with the Thundercats, but I knew what Snarf was. And so at least I could pat myself on the back one. Blue jacking would be the correct answer for this one. That's the one that involves going through and doing unsolicited messages. Blue snarfing is actually attacking things. So there we go. That's blue jacking. All right. Question number 5, the last question for the night. What is the primary function of an intrusion detection system? And of course, my Kali decides to lock itself right at the time. I need to take that off. I think like that does it in every presentation I'm on here. I'll give you guys a few seconds for this one. What do you think? What is the primary function of an intrusion detection system? Now, I want to point out that usually CompTIA is not going to spell this out for you. They're not going to. They do occasionally. They do. I think I said in my Network Plus study group or in my practice exams when we were going through it, at one time I was taking an exam and I could not remember what this acronym was to save my life. I was like hitting my head. There was like 4 acronyms on there, and I was pretty sure it was one or the other. I had that 50-50 going on. I couldn't remember it. And then 2 slides later, they spelled out the acronym for me just like they did here, and I was able to go back 2 slides and then answer the question correctly, which, by the way, I had gotten it wrong. I often tell students, right, when you're answering questions on any type of certification exam, if you're hesitant, trust your gut feeling. Trust your gut feeling. 80% of the time, your gut feeling is going to lead you right. Unless, if you don't know what you're looking at, go with your gut feeling. And don't change your answer once you have that gut feeling unless you have a logical, sound reason to do so. I can't tell you how many students I have watched change their answer from the right answer to something else because they didn't trust that gut feeling. So always go with your gut feeling. If you don't have any other sense to go off of, go off that gut feeling. All right, let's answer this one. What is the primary function of an intrusion detection system in IDS? Well, it's not an IPS, so it's not going to block attacks. It's not going to prevent, it's only going to detect. And that means that A cannot be correct because it's not an IPS, it's an IDS, not blocking anything. It's not going to encrypt network traffic. That is not a function of an IDS. It does not encrypt anything. That's not what it does. That would be an HSM, maybe. Hardware security module would encrypt some network traffic. Moving on to B and C, we can authenticate users or detect and alert suspicious activity. I'm going to have to go with B. I feel like detection, they're kind of like right there, and alert, and it's detection system, so it's going to detect, and it has a system. Yeah, it's going to be B. Detect and alert on suspicious activity. Our answer is going to be B. Authenticating users would be an entire authentication protocol or process. Definitely not B. So in this case, IDS is going to be detect and alert on suspicious activities. That is the function of an IDS, and there you have it. That is it. All right, as always, my name is Professor K. I hope you found this helpful. I hope it was worthwhile. If it was, if you would be so kind, I would appreciate that like, that subscribe, and of course that little bell icon. We're going to try to do another one next week. We're going to try to do one at least once a week for the foreseeable future. As long as people are watching them and you're getting something out of it, we will continue to do it. Thank you very much for your time. Until next time, my name is Dr. K. Thanks so much.